everyone, it's Lisa from iDreaming Soap. Welcome to my channel and thanks for dropping by. Now, as you can see at the moment, you're sitting there just staring at a bottle of apple sage fragrance oil. Now, this is a fragrance that I haven't used before in my soaps, and it's the start of a recent decision I've taken about my soap making. As a lot of you know, if you've seen my videos before, I'm based in the UK, where we have very tight restrictions on whenever we make a soap, we have to literally stick exactly to the gram to a submitted recipe that we have done, which means we can't change any colours, we can't alter the amount of mica we put in our soap or anything like that. And I'm all for following regulations, and that's fine, but I do find, and I found this really recently, is that I can literally spend hours sitting down in front of a pad or my computer trying to make a design fit into one of my assessments. And I've actually just got to the point where I don't want to do it anymore. I've got to the point where I've literally spent the other weekend when I was doing my Australia soap, I think it was. It took me half a day on Saturday I had a design, but to make it work and muck around the design and get it to fit to the assessment. And I've just decided that I can't really be doing that anymore. It's fine if you just want to churn out the same soap over and over and over again, then great, stick to your recipe, stick to your colours, that's fine. Now, what that doesn't mean is, it doesn't mean I'm going to be breaking any rules and regulations. But what it does mean is that anytime I make a soap, you may not on the videos see me saying, this is what I'm doing in accordance with my assessment. Because I'm taking a new tact now. I'm going to make a soap how I want to make a soap. I know the rules and regs that I have to follow for one of my soaps to pass an assessment. I know my limits, I know what I can put in a soap so that it will pass an assessment. So therefore you're going to see quite a few soaps from me where I'm just using the colours and things that I want to use and the fragrances that I want to use. I will be noting absolutely everything down and measuring everything I use, and then after that point I will be taking everything I've used in that soap and putting it through a cosmetic assessment afterwards to get that soap approved at that point. Now, in a way, that's quite nice because it gives me a little bit more freedom. Well, actually, quite a lot of freedom to, as long as I'm sticking with the overall rules and regulations of what we can and can't do in the UK, I can sort of make the soaps that I want to make. However, it does mean that every time I make a soap, I will then be having to submit that soap for cosmetic assessment. Along with that will come a fee for having that soap assessed by a chemist, and also the time that it takes for that assessment to go through, which sometimes can be as short as 4 or 5 weeks. Sometimes it can be a few months before a soap actually gets assessed. So that's the downside of this strategy. But that's what I've decided that I want to do so that I can just be a little bit more creative in my soap making. So you've just seen me mixing up 2 jugs of soap whilst I've been going on, and those jugs are going to be for me to make some green for some grass and stems and some brown to make a tree trunk. So you might have expected to see a brown mica and a green mica on this tray. Well, I'm still trying to be flexible because obviously when I do a new assessment, if I can keep it as flexible as possible to use in the future, then I want to do that. I want to get more than one go out of these assessments. And also, if we have more than 5 additives to our base recipe, so that could be 4 micas and a fragrance oil, say for example, we then have to pay extra money to have a recipe assessed. So I'm trying to keep the number of extra things down. So by mixing colours and combining them, I can get more use out of those colours. So today's lucky colours are terracotta red, shimmer blue and sunshine yellow, and all of those are from Mica Mama here in the UK. And I'm also going to be using some activated charcoal. So for my green, I bet there's no surprises there. I'm going to be using some blue and some yellow mica, and I'm just going to add amounts until I get to the colour that I want. I have weighed what I've got in these little containers, so from that I can then weigh them at the end and see how much I've used. So for my green, I don't want a bright, vibrant green. I want a sage green because it's apple sage. So that's what I'm trying to get here. And then for the brown, I'm going to be using some red, yellow and a little bit of black. Now you might be thinking, well, why don't I just use brown? Well, the problem is once I've got brown in this assessment, I'd have to use brown in all of my soaps, whereas here I can now use any colour that I can make with this variety of colours. So for example, I'm going to want some sky in my soap, and I've already got some blue. I want some more grass and all that sort of stuff, so I can use them to get more colours than the just 4 that I've used. So now I'm happy with both of my colours. I can add in my fragrance oil, and then for the brown I'm actually going to split a little bit of it off, and that's because I want to add a little bit of extra activated charcoal to some of the brown, so I've got some shading going through the trunk of that tree. And I'm just going to take that darker brown and pour it into the light brown. I'm still a really light trace here because I don't want big thick lines going through my tree. I just want some sort of bits of shade. So I like the fact this is going to be quite fluid and quite wispy. So just literally a straightforward in the pot swirl to make my proper tree trunk colours. Now I haven't got, and I'm not making a tree trunk or a grass mould. I'm just going to make it in the same size mould that I'm using for my actual soap. And I haven't got any dividers for this mould, but what I've done is just grab some dividers that I have for another mould and stuck 2 of them together with some sticky tape so that they're nice and tight and will sit in there. And what that will do is divide my mould up so I can use half of it to get my tree trunk and half of it to get my grass. And then I'm simply just going to take those 2 bits of soap batter and pour them into my mould. The reason I'm pouring them both in together is, remember, this isn't a proper divider for this mould, so I could potentially get a little bit of leakage. So by pouring those batters in together, that just stop anything leaking from side to side. I am just going to leave this divider in there just because I don't need to take it out. You could quite easily just pull that divider out at this stage, and as long as you don't wiggle your mould around too much, those 2 bits of soap should stay nicely separated in their own sort of little sides, as it were. So these can go into the oven to see pop as normal and leave them to set up, so I'm going to use them when I make my soap tomorrow. So here we are, it's now tomorrow and I've unmoulded my 2 soaps. I'm going to start with my tree trunk first of all, and I'm just going to take this block of soap and just spend a little bit of time just very simply carving out a fairly basic tree trunk shape. So first of all, I'm just going to trim this block of, I guess it's really soap dough at this stage, into the size that I want my tree. Once it's trimmed to size, I'm then just going to gradually shave away at the sides to give that sort of curved nature of a tree trunk. And then I'm just going to carve into the top of the tree trunk so it looks like I've got some branches coming out. And at the bottom I'm going to do the same just so it looks like the tree trunk isn't, just flat and straight across the bottom. I want it to be sort of ridged so it looks like you can see some grass in front of the tree. And then I'm just going to rough up the edges of the tree trunk just so it sort of looks like a bit ruffled and a bit barky on the outside. And then there's our little tree trunk done. And all of that stuff that I've scraped off and my spare soap, I'm just going to bundle that all up and keep it wrapped nice and tightly, and I can use it for soap dough in a future soap should I make something similar to this again with this fragrance. Now for that green soap that I made, I'm actually going to pour grass into the bottom of my mould, but what I'm doing here is I'm just shaving off with a vegetable peeler some strips of the green soap because I want some stalks to come up to look like the sage stems, and they would be very difficult to do with just wet soap batter. And then once they're cut, I am just going to trim them down a bit because they're going to be a little bit tall, and then just flatten them out nice and straight and leave them to just dry and stiffen up a little bit, well, until I'm ready for them to go into my soap. And the last thing I need before I can get into pouring the soap are some apples. So I've made some soap dough with that terracotta red, and I'm just going to use a straightforward round disc from the basic extruder set that you get with any extruder, and just extrude some strips of apple. So in an attempt not to let this video get ludicrously long, I've jumped to the point where I'm ready for my first pour. So here I've got two different colours. The first is some green, so again a combination of the yellow and blue again, and that's going to be for my grassy layer. And then in the other pot I've got some purple. So that's a combination of, if you remember, I have blue in my colour scheme and some red, so I've just mixed those together. So the green is going to be for my grass, and I want to let that set up a bit so that I can give some texture to that grass. And then the purple, I'm going to be piping in some little sage flowers, so I need to let that set up as well. Now, just before I pour my soap into my mould for my grassy layer, I'm going back to my tree trunk. Do you remember I carved out some lines in the bottom of my tree trunk so it looked like I could have some grass at the base of the trunk? Now, the best way to make sure that you don't end up with holes in your soap, if you just pop that tree trunk in the soap, it's quite likely you're going to get some holes. So what I'm doing is, whilst this grass is still reasonably fluid, I'm just going to go through and fill all of those holes in and make sure I've got no air gaps, and then just leave that sitting upside down so that that soap will stick in there nicely. So when I go and put the tree in, I'm not going to have any holes in my soap. And then for my grass, I'm just going to pour the rest of that soap into my mould. I'll let it set up a little bit more in the mould so I can then go through and rough it all up and give it some texture. And once that green's thicken up a little bit, I'm going to start putting in the strips of sage stems and the apple tree trunk. And this bit comes in a little bit fuzzy because my camera seems to prefer to focus on my white cap rather than the soap, but hopefully you can see what's going on. So next we're moving on to the sky colour that sits, underneath the tree branches. And this is just a combination of shimmer blue and some titanium dioxide at a 1:1 ratio. Now, I'm going with this pretty fluid to start with because I've got to get in between all of those bits of grass and those stems that I've got sticking up. So I'm going to let this go in at a really fluid trace, so I make sure again that I get no air bubbles. And then I'm just going in with some tweezers and just wiggling those stems around just to make sure that I do get soap between everything. So my purple has set up enough to start piping now, so I've transferred it into a piping bag with a number 2 tip, and I'm just going to pipe little rows of flowers and then just gradually fill in a little bit of flower, then a little bit of blue, then a little bit of flower, and just gradually do some layering to bring those sage flowers in. Now I'm quite aware I've been going on a bit and beating on your ear holes for a while, so for the rest of the pour I'm just going to set it to some music and put some little annotations up on the screen, just so I can give you a bit of breather from me going on for a while.
I lose my breath whenever I see you. You stole my heart, what is it that you do? My life was great till you added colors. Like the moon needs the sun, we don't care about the others. You set my world on fire. You're my heart's desire. I just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Please tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You set my world on fire. You set my world on fire. I don't know what I'd do without you. You make me smile, what is it that you do? My life was great till you added colors. Like the moon is the sun, we don't care about the others. You set my world on fire. You're my heart's desire. I just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Please tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You set my world on fire. You set my world on fire. I just want you, I just need you. I don't know what it is you do. I just want you, I just need you. I don't know what it is you do. I just wanna love you, just wanna hold you, just wanna be with you till we grow old. Just tell me you'll stay or take me away. I want you for myself every single day. You set my world on fire. You set my world on fire.
So here we are the next day with our unmoulded soap, so let's give it a cut. So here are all our little apple trees. I'm really pleased with the way they've come out. These will be for sale in the shop. At the moment I can't give you a date because, as I mentioned before, I need to wait until my cosmetic safety assessment has come through from these soaps. If you do want to be notified about when I release soaps, then why not pop to my website, link in the description below, and sign up for notifications. I only ever send one notification a month just to let people know that I'm releasing new soaps. I don't email or spam with anything else. And here are some final pictures of the soap. I hope you've enjoyed this video and you like the soap. If you do, it would be great if you left me a thumbs up. If you've got any questions or comments, then please leave them in the comments section below. And if you'd like to see what I'm making in the future, then why not subscribe to my channel? Thanks for watching, everyone. Happy soaping!